Lewis Hamilton has talked about his crash in Barcelona. He gave the team lots of details about how the car was acting, which made him crash into the barriers at turn 2. But guess what? Even though crashes are scary, they actually help Ferrari learn things. So will Ferrari use what Lewis told them to build a better car in 2025? And more importantly, will this new car work better for how Lewis likes to drive than we first thought? One of the biggest moves in racing history has finally happened, and with Hamilton going through lots and lots of testing with Ferrari. Nobody expected such a big crash like this one in Barcelona to happen to the guy who won 7 world championships. But you know what? These mistakes actually tell the team way more than if the driver didn't make any mistakes at all. They happen for a good reason. The driver is pushing the car as hard as it can go and learning how it acts. Ferrari would be really smart to listen to what Hamilton says, because unlike Leclerc and Sainz, he's driving this car for the very first time in his whole career and can tell if something is really wrong with it. Right now, what people are saying is that Lewis is getting used to some other parts of the SF23 pretty well, or more specifically Ferrari's cars in general, like how to start the car and let go of the clutch. This is something that really hurt the performance of the guy he replaced at Ferrari, Carlos Sainz, since this is something that almost never changes in the car as it gets better. It's really great news for Ferrari overall. What we need to understand here as super important information is that Hamilton is slowly but surely proving wrong the stories that he doesn't really know much about helping develop a car the way that Michael Schumacher did during Ferrari's amazing years. Lewis has always been criticized by lots of F1 experts when it comes to giving detailed thoughts about how the car acts. But the fact that Mercedes didn't listen to him from day one when the ground era started shows that Hamilton really does know a thing or two when it comes to what the car needs and what makes it not so good. This might be one of the reasons why the 7-time world champion asked for some changes in how the car works, like the ones with the pedals and the inside of the car. Mercedes wasn't really interested in listening to Lewis, and they thought these were just excuses for him not doing as well. But the fact that Ferrari decided to make the complicated pedal changes shows that they completely trust what Hamilton tells them. Also, Hamilton has gotten used to the braking system mostly because Ferrari uses different brake parts than the ones in Mercedes. And even though Lewis crashed and ended his day early with a 120 mph crash at the end of turn 12, he told the Ferrari engineers good things about the car. This means that the car was not as bad as they thought. While it got worse results compared to 2022, it was the only car on the track other than the Red Bull to actually win a race. Sainz won in Singapore. It's really important for Hamilton to get used to other things too, like tire management problems. This is something that the 7-time world champion had a really hard time with at Mercedes, and Ferrari has noticed this, and they're now really excited to work on this part with Hamilton while putting Leclerc on a different plan. After just 5 times on the podium and 2 race wins in 2024, which are actually really good if you look at how bad 2022 and 2023 were for Hamilton. He finished at the worst spot of his career in 7th place. There's a lot of work to do with Ferrari if he wants to fight at the front again, of course. His biggest rival will sit right next to him in the garage, Charles Leclerc, one of the best qualifiers on the track, and the guy who has lots of experience, taking a middle-of-the-pack car to the front row and managing to defend his spot with fierce fighting from his side. But this is where you have to think twice if you're Ferrari. You're bringing a 7-time world champion into your team, and if you expect that he would just sit back and watch Leclerc get all the good results from the work that's been done in the previous off-season, then you're thinking completely wrong. Hamilton and Ferrari have also worked on tire management at Fiorano for a short time, to 19 kilometers because of the wet weather and the meet and greet time that he went through with the fans and the racing engineer Riccardo Adami. But the 1,000-kilometer test in Barcelona that's going to be followed up with a 2026 Pirelli tire test with the SF24 is going to help Hamilton understand even more about how the car acts over a long time. This would be the first time that Lewis will drive the newest version of Ferrari's car, even though it might not mean that much since in 2025 we'll see the team from Maranello with a 99% different design. It's still a step in the right direction when it comes to getting used to the current rule era. What's worth knowing is that Ferrari knows all about Hamilton's weak points and are more than ready to fix them as soon as possible, which is why they've put him through this huge testing program under the TPC rules. A story that Hamilton would have to prove wrong sooner rather than later is about his age and staying in shape while in his 40s and fighting for a championship, something that was brought up by Felipe Massa, a former Ferrari driver and Hamilton's championship rival back in 2008. When talking about it, the Brazilian driver said, "If you asked me if I would hire Hamilton as the head driver of Ferrari, yes I would, without a doubt, because of the talent he has. He's one of the most incredible drivers in Formula 1, but because of his age, maybe not." Because of his age, if you look at the sport, age matters, and we have to understand how much age is affecting him in this situation or not. I'm talking about myself. These days I need to train much more physically than I used to. It's much harder to get better physically after a difficult race or an intense training session. Age takes its toll in some areas. That is normal. Age is something that has hurt several drivers negatively, just like it did for Schumacher. On the other hand, Piero Ferrari is not very worried about how age will affect Hamilton's time with Ferrari when talking about this situation. The son of Enzo believes that Lewis will be able to find his old great driving in no time and be competitive right away. Yes, chances that he could win the championship on his first try are a bit unrealistic, because he still needs to get completely comfortable and trust the car enough to push it to the absolute maximum. But then again, if there's one driver that you could bet your life on getting used to new cars at the age of 40, it has to be Lewis Hamilton. And of course, the situation is now very clear in terms of the battle on the track, because if we look at the deepest part of this partnership, it's most likely going to be a very fierce battle between Leclerc and Hamilton. The friendly masks will come off as soon as the helmets go on their heads. Lewis has one goal in front of him to win the 8th record-breaking championship and make his legacy in this sport solid as the only driver to achieve such a thing. But according to Piero Ferrari, the rivalry between Leclerc and Hamilton is not something that should worry the fans of the team from Maranello, and it's not like these two are going to create a toxic place to work in, similar to what happened at Mercedes from 2014 to 2016 between Hamilton and Rosberg. When talking about the potential problem for Ferrari, Piero said, "Oh, of course there's a challenge for Leclerc to beat Hamilton. It's always been like this between teammates, it's part of the game." In Charles's case, there's also the generational, the thing that we're seeing in tennis with Sinner and other young players, the freshness of the young guys against the experience and strength of those who are many years older. I'm sure that the rivalry between Hamilton and Leclerc will be able to bring good things to both. The story is very similar from Fred Vasseur as well. The Frenchman would rather see his drivers fight for a first and second place finish than be last on the grid, and it's a sweet headache that every team boss would want to have on the grid. But rivalry can very soon turn into something mean, and this is one. The team needs to draw its red lines and support one driver, the one who will be closer to the championship in the driver's lineup. Also, they would have a difficult job in using all of their strengths in the best way to win the Constructors' Championship, because with a team like McLaren, it's going to be the hardest challenge for Ferrari besides having a driver at the top of the drivers' category by the end of the year. With all of this in mind, do you think that the feedback that Lewis has given to the engineers at Ferrari after the crash in Barcelona will help the team a lot? And if so, do you think it could be a threat to Leclerc's chances to win the championship before Lewis? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're interested in Lewis's latest crash in Barcelona and how it affected his joining the team from Maranello, make sure to click on the video that's appearing on your screen right now.